Exposed, 8 sinister ghosts caught on camera, terrifying paranormal encounters revealed. Lisa stumbled into her house, its slightly worn-out charm tugging at her heartstrings. But this wasn't a sanctuary. It felt like a dogged specter wrapped around her essence, whispering dark secrets of its past. Every creak of the floorboards echoed through her restless night shifts, turning exhaustion into dread. The antique furniture loomed a menacing collection of shadows in the corners, beckoning Lisa with evil promise. Whispers flitted through the air like fluttering wings, uninvited and chilling. She needed air. Just as she began to breathe, a fleeting shape darted across her vision. It sent adrenaline shooting through her veins. Panic wrapped around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. The house had its own pulse, and it felt aggressive tonight. Ghostly figures danced in her mind, visions that shouldn't be, casting a shadow over her beautiful children. With trembling hands, she aimed her smartphone at the unknown. Just a little footage, she muttered, the lens capturing her dark existence. When Lisa reviewed the videos later, her stomach dropped. 8 ghostly figures materialized after dark, their faces twisted in despair, drawing life from the very walls they inhabited. Each one tethered to some grim tale whispering through the fabric of her quaint suburban community. This benign atmosphere turned malignant, an echo of laughter shattered and twisted into something sinister. "Mommy." Mia's voice twinkled from the hallway, a joyful chime overshadowed by malevolence. Her heart raced as she remembered the babysitter, her dependable shield. Lisa's heart sank as the realization hit. Where was she? A rising feeling of panic clawed at her throat. Their previous comfort was peeling away like the wallpaper that hung eerily on the cracked walls. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Heart racing, Lisa shifted her focus back to the eerie silence. Josh had suddenly gone quiet, and an unsettling chill filled the living room. Creeping towards Mia, Lisa turned the corner and found Josh standing before a concealed door in the dim light. An ominous gust of wind ruffled her hair, sending chills spiraling down her spine. The power flickered, shadows lurked, and there lay the basement door, revealing remnants of dark rituals hidden below. Muffled laughter echoed off the stairs, sending shudders through her soul. Lisa's instincts roared to life. She had to protect them. Racing home, stomach twisted in knots, every hair stood on end. Who had betrayed her trust? As darkness descended, shadows danced menacingly across walls, doubling the weight of fear pressing down upon her chest. Each flicker of light brought forth frantic laughter, morphing into cursed sounds dancing tantalizingly on the edge of her sanity. Could the babysitter have known too much? The unease gnawed at her. Who in this seemingly tight-knit neighborhood wasn't what they appeared to be? The air grew thick as the whispers shifted, a cacophony of regret and betrayal closing in. Lisa swallowed hard, fear gnawing at the edges of her awareness, sealing her fate. What would the night claim next? Lisa's heart thundered as she faced that concealed door. The instinct to flee wrestled with her desperate need to protect her children. "Mommy." Mia's voice called again, but it was drenched in urgency now, shadowed by something darker, something that twisted the innocence out of a child's plea. "Stay there, Mia." Lisa's voice cracked as she stepped closer to Josh. He was transfixed by the door, his eyes reflecting a fear that mirrored her own. "Josh, come on. Let us," but the words caught in her throat as he whispered, "Mom, it wants us." That chilling line twisted inside her like a knife. The shadows behind the door seemed to tremble, promising horrors. She could feel their energy radiating from beneath the floor, a sinister thrum that echoed through the wood, bleeding into her bones. Without thinking, she lunged forward, yanking Josh away from the door. As she turned back to Mia, her breath hitched. The hallway was darker now, the edges of shadows stretching as if molding themselves into grotesque figures. Mia. Panic ignited her feet, and she dashed down the hallway, bursting into the room where her daughter had stood so patiently moments before. But the room was empty. Mia was gone. The air thickened, suffocating her. Behind her, the basement door creaked open by itself, the unseen force beckoning her forward. Lisa. The voice floated up from the darkness, sickly sweet, like honey mixed with decay. It was the babysitter's voice, yet it emerged twisted and loaded with pretense. Help us, the words coiled around her and squeezed. It wasn't Mia, it was bait, luring her into the depths below. Heart racing, she stumbled back, panic spreading like wildfire. The uncertainty spread through her mind in tortured waves. How could she have let this happen? But the voices above all joined in unholy chorus, a symphony of despair. Help us, Lisa. No. She screamed, slamming her hands over her ears, but the cacophony only grew louder. Faces began to stretch through the darkness behind the door, distorted and desperate. Each face had a story, a fragment of those who'd been trapped before her, waiting for deliverance that never came. She felt the anger rise in her throat, mingled with an overwhelming urge to save. Determined, she crept closer once more, the weight of fear demanding that she act. She had to face this monster head-on. But as she reached for the door, another wave of laughter echoed from the depths. It was Josh's laughter, light and carefree. Her heart froze. How could he be laughing in such a terrible moment? Josh? She called, her voice trembling, uncertainty flooding every syllable. Mom. Come play. His voice danced up from the darkness, eerily cheerful, and it twisted her guts in knots. Each step toward the door filled her with dread, that comforting familiarity morphing into a trap. A flicker warned her. The lights pulsed in quick succession, and with each flicker, figures began to peel off the walls, coming to life in terrifying detail. Lisa felt their cold, unyielding gaze fix upon her, testing her will. Swallowing hard, she gathered the slivers of courage left. She mustered her strength and flung the door open wide, exposing the descent into the unknown. Searing darkness swallowed the light. Josh! She shouted, her voice echoing down the chasm. What awaited her below was terrifying to consider, but fear now fanned the flames of her resolve. She stepped forward, the shadows beckoning, as the laughter grew louder. Come play, and just as she felt herself slipping into the void, crushing dread clawed at her. The darkness promised a revelation, an answer to what had unfolded in her home, but at what cost? What had she unleashed? The door creaked behind her, but would she dare to look back now? A haunting whisper bristled at the back of her mind, ushering her forth into the abyss. The night's ultimate claim was lurking, and her desperate choices had only just begun. Stepping into the darkness felt like diving into cold water, sharp, invigorating, and terrifying all at once. Lisa's instincts warred within her, clawing for a way out even as the urge to find her children severed her ties to reason. Josh! She called again, her voice trembling in the damp air. Each breath felt heavier, saturated with the oppressive density of fear. The hallway behind her faded, suffocated by the weight of the dark abyss into which she had willingly stepped. The laughter grew louder, spurring her deeper into the gloom. Mom! Come play. The words rang out again, but now they held an unsettling tone, as if mocking her. With each inch she moved down the stairs, the shadows seemed to shift and writhe, closing in like flexible fingers grasping at her ankles. She could almost feel them yanking her backward. But she grit her teeth and pressed on, resolving to rescue her children or perish trying. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. Silence enveloped her, as thick as fog. It was a silence that screamed, heavy and oppressive, pressing down on her chest. Josh? No answer. Just her own heartbeat pounding in her ears, each thud an echo of her growing desperation. Help us, the voice of the babysitter seeped from the corners of the darkness, curling around her brain, seeping into her subconscious. Lisa, every instinct in her screamed to turn back, to run up the stairs and escape. Yet, as she felt the chill creep over her skin, she knew she couldn't leave. Her children were lost, their voices silenced by forces she could not comprehend. The darkness shifted, revealing fleeting glimpses of movement. Shapes danced, quick flashes of distorted faces that melted into the shadows again. Were they real? Or mere figments of her paranoia? A powerful compulsion urged her to go deeper. She stumbled forward, each step a battle against the urge to turn around. Just ahead, a dim light flickered, drawing her closer, a faint glimmer of hope or another cruel trick. As she neared the light, a vision of Josh appeared, huddled at a corner, small, guarded. "Mom!" His tiny frame trembled, eyes wide in terror. Every instinct screamed that he was truly there. But the flicker of the light distorted his figure, stretching it, twisting it. "Mia's down here too." The urgency in his voice tugged painfully at her heart. "Where?" she shouted, barely able to see through the shadows. "Just follow my voice." But a new sound emerged behind her, a guttural growl, low and primal. It was a beast born from the darkness, the pulse of malice echoing through the basement. Shadows lunged toward her, sudden and violent. Panicking, Lisa spun around, gripped by the paralyzing fear of what might emerge from the gloom. She felt her breath quicken, pulse racing wildly in her neck. "Josh! Stay close." Then, as if mocking her command, the shadows morphed. Familiar faces emerged from within the faces of lost children, their own eyes pleading for release. Lisa staggered back as their whispers filled the air. "Help us no!" she shrieked, her voice cutting through the chorus of despair. "I want to leave you." But as she turned to run toward Josh, the darkness surged forward, engulfing him whole. "Mom!" His voice echoed, fading into the cacophony, pulling at her heart. Her chest tightened, panic swallowing her whole. With each passing second, the mirage of Josh faded, swallowed by the stronger presence of the shadow's forces, unchanged by her frantic resolve. "Why do you resist?" a voice hissed, seeping into the air like smoke, wrapping around her mind. "You can join us." Desperation clawed at Lisa, and she felt the terrible weight of despair settling into the pit of her stomach. "I want to let you take them." The shadows roared in laughter, thick with darkness, wrapping around her like a snake, threatening to crush her resolve. She braced herself against the wall, pondering her next move. But who was she really fighting? Was it the darkness or herself? Leaning into the tendrils of shadow that tested her grip, the pull felt almost inviting, beckoning her with promises of solace. "Come play," the voices sighed. She hesitated, her breath hitching. If she didn't escape soon, she might become one of them, forever trapped in a fate she had never imagined. Would she dare confront what lurked in the shadows? Or would she succumb to their alluring embrace? As the malevolence surged, Lisa made a choice. But would it be the right one? And as darkness closed in, she wondered if she would be able to find anything but despair in this nightmare. The heaviness of the shadows pressed closer, a clinging fog that threatened to swallow her whole. Lisa's heart raced as she strained to hear Josh's voice, but the silence mocked her. With the walls around her seemingly breathing, she took a deep breath, forcing herself to resist their pull. She would not give in. She wouldn't become another lost child in this nightmare. "Please. I need to find my kids," she whispered, convinced the darkness was listening, hoping against hope that admitting her fear would somehow lessen its hold. Just then, a flicker caught her eye. The distant glow pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing her in. She stumbled forward, her pulse quickening, fighting against the clammy fingers of despair clawing at her. "Josh?" she called out again, more desperate now. The flickering light began to illuminate a strange figure ahead, a specter of a child. But as she approached, it froze, wide-eyed and hollow, its mouth moving in silent screams. Lisa staggered back, heart pounding. It wasn't Josh. It wasn't Mia. Panic surged again. "Get away from me!" she shouted at the apparition, but it remained still, emanating an unsettling aura that felt like cold steel against her skin. With renewed determination, Lisa continued, but the laughter crept back in, a symphony of hysteria that echoed in her mind. Each taunt felt like a dagger aimed straight at her heart, imploring her to turn back, to give in. But she wouldn't let them win. With every step she took, the shadows twisted and morphed into sinister shapes, whispering promises she dared not heed. "Mom! Help!" The anguished cry from somewhere deep within flickered through the darkness, igniting a spark of hope. It sounded closer. She rushed towards it. "Josh! Turn back. Don't trust it." Another voice rang out, this time sounding alarmingly like Mia's. It was agonizingly familiar but layered with a tinge of echoing dread. "Not now, sweetie. I'm coming," she cried back, dispelling the voices of warning echoing in her head. The tunnel seemed to elongate, twisting further into the bleakness. As she pressed on, fear gripped her insides, sharp and relentless. The flickering light grew brighter but also dimmed with each shaky breath she took. Shadows cascaded in torrents, swirling around her, almost as if the darkness was alive, a living, breathing entity intent on consuming her. "Join us!" The hissing grew louder, filling her mind with an intoxicating blend of terror and temptation. Lisa fought against the pull, unwilling to step closer to the oblivion that beckoned. Then she saw them, two small shapes ahead, barely illuminated by the wavering light. "Mom!" they chorused, voices sweet and innocent yet deeply distorted. She squinted through the fog, desperate to make out their features amidst the shifting shadows, praying it was really them. "Stay back!" Lisa shouted, the darkness pressing close as she stepped towards them, every instinct telling her to protect her children, even as dread chilled her to the bone. "I'm coming." Suddenly, the floor shifted beneath her feet. An involuntary lurch sent Lisa tumbling forward into inky darkness, a tainted abyss that seemed to gulp at her. She landed hard, the impact knocking the breath from her body. Dazed and disoriented, she looked up, just in time to see the figures engulfed by the shadows, their voices silenced. "Josh! Mia!" she screamed, the darkness laughing around her, echoing with a chilling finality that thickened the air. Panic surged anew, clawing at the back of her throat. The suffocating darkness squeezed her heart like a vice, whispering promises that pricked at her sanity. "Come play!" It beckoned again, sinister and sweet. Bracing herself against the trembling ground, she pushed to her feet, eyes scanning the hollow void. "I will find them," she cried defiantly, hatred boiling toward the shadows that murmured around her. But deep down, doubt gnawed at her resolve. With every sweeping shadow, she risked losing herself. Could she trust what lay ahead? And as the shadows encircled her, inching closer, she couldn't shake one terrifying thought: what if she was too late? The familiar voices bantered in her mind, twisting how she understood the darkness. Would she find her children or merely become another echo in this haunted realm? The pulse of despair quickened around her, a storm at sea, teetering on the edge of survival. One moment could change everything. As Lisa teetered at the brink, the shadows hissed, awaiting her decision. And with one fateful breath, she braced for what lay ahead, hands trembling, her heart racing in premonition of the horrors yet to come. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled violently. It felt like the earth was protesting against her intrusion. Lisa yelled as she stumbled back, grappling to regain her footing. The shadows coiled tighter, and the pressure on her chest felt unbearable. "No! I won't give in!" she screamed, defiance ringing hollow against the omnipresent dark. Then she heard a faint whisper, cutting through the chaos, its sound like shards of glass scraping against her sanity. "Mom, help!" The voice was indistinguishable, a haunting blend of her children's cries and the echoing fears of the place. It sent tremors through her bones, and she felt the wretched pull of the void urging her deeper into its clutches. "Where are you?" Lisa cried out into the emptiness. The world around her seemed to pulse in response, shaking and twisting, as if the darkness itself was alive, mocking her. She pressed forward, adrenaline fueling her desperate pursuit. She had to banish doubt. Each step was a battle against the gnawing anxiety that clawed at her, each breath steeped in dread. Moving through the haze, the flickering light flickered again. It grew brighter, illuminating twisted shapes that paraded in the periphery, flickers of lost souls manifesting in the shadows, eyes hollow and yearning. Lisa, they called her name in a ghostly symphony. She couldn't tell if they were urging her on or warning her to stay away. With each sound, the realization hit harder: these figures could be remnants of mothers like her, once full of hope, now trapped in this nightmare, forever lingering in search of what they'd lost. No, she shouted, shaking her head violently. I will not end up like you. The darkness recoiled, then surged again. It was testing her resolve, preying on her fears. Lisa felt a tremor in her heart, a crack in her confidence. Doubts surged, dark thoughts sprouting like weeds. How could she believe the voices of her children when they could be lies, traps set to ensnare her? Josh! Mia! She screamed again. The sound echoed eerily, filling the void with desperation. And then silence, so profound it felt like a physical weight. Just then, a shrill laugh burst through the silence, echoing in cruel mockery. A child's laughter twisted into something malignant. It bounced off the walls, filling the air with an uneasy cadence. Lisa shivered as a deep chill settled in the pit of her stomach. What if this was the last time she heard them? What if it was already too late? Mom! A different voice, lighter, yet laden with urgency. Instinctively, she turned, searching frantically, desperately looking for any sign of her kids. But all she found was more shadows, swirling in fluid motions, playing tricks on her tired psyche. They whispered, taunted, their displeasure swirling around her, as if possessing a life of their own. Leave this place, one hissed, its voice raspy and gnarled, dripping with cold. No! She yelled defiantly, pushing back. I will find them. The ground shook again, and this time a rift opened before her, a swirling vortex that beckoned ominously. She could feel its breath against her skin, a dark promise of oblivion waiting just out of reach. Together forever, echoed the whispers, seducing her with a promise of reunification, of not just finding her children, but of being with them forever. Lisa hesitated at the edge of fear and hope blurring into one. The profound dread clawed at her insides, pulling her closer to the gaping maw of the waiting darkness. She faced a decision that could alter everything: to leap into the void, chance the unknown, or return to the suffocating despair of solitude. With her heart racing faster than ever, she felt the weight of 1,000 souls holding her back, their anguish a heavy anchor. But she couldn't listen. Not when there was still a chance, however slim. She gathered all her courage and stepped closer to the edge. Just a little more, she pleaded at the shadows, merging fear and determination. But what she didn't know was that time was running out. The shadows were hungry, ready to claim what they had lured into their nightmarish embrace. With one last, shaky breath, she took a step toward the void, the shadows swirling like a tempest around her. And in that terrifying moment, as she felt them reach out for her, she realized, what if the darkness was right? As the air thickened, her choices faded into uncertainty, Lisa braced for the worst. A revelation loomed just beyond, and she could feel it, a truth she wasn't ready to face. The moment Lisa stepped closer, the shadows erupted into a frenzied dance, swirling violently around her. An icy wind slashed through her, chilling her to the bone. She gasped, hands clutching her arms, as if to ward off the inevitable. Powerless, she felt the darkness pull at her, like cold fingers dragging her into its depths. Mom! The voice came clearer, more defined, piercing the cacophony. It was a plea, raw and desperate. It brought her to a halt. Help us. Josh. Mia. She stumbled back, disbelief surging. Where are you? Panic flooded her chest, bubbling like a boiling pot on the verge of spilling over. Were they trapped in this horrible place, too? Was it already too late for them? The shadows shifted, revealing glimpses of twisted, anguished faces. They were lost souls, their mouths opening in a silent scream. Lisa's heart raced as her own fear crystallized into reality. Would it be the bodies of her children she would find among them? No. She couldn't accept that. Together forever, a voice echoed, seductive and silky, wrapping around her like a vine, coiling tighter, squeezing hope from her bones. She couldn't let it take her. Not another inch. Clenching her fists, she repeated the names of her children. Josh. Mia. Each shout fueled her, fed the fire of her resolve. Somehow, this place thrived on despair, thriving in its hopelessness. As she stood at the rift, her heart racing like a runaway train, she glimpsed movement. The outline of a small figure danced just beyond the swirling chaos, not quite clear but undeniably there. A devilish grin formed in the darkness. Mom, help us. That voice, urgent and high-pitched, sent a wave of energy through her veins. Could it be? Just then, the ground quaked violently, a warning tremor, and cracks of smoky light crept from the rift. The shadows began to claw at her as if desperate to pull her down. Yet, as they seized her, something inside her flickered, a memory. It was a warm summer day, laughter echoing as they played tag in the backyard. That faded memory ignited something, a sliver of hope. I'm coming. She called out, forcing her feet to move, to take a step back from the rift. No, the shadows hissed, the chorus of voices rising in unison, angry and menacing. Stay. With newfound strength, Lisa turned away from the vortex. It swirled behind her, rage erupting as it realized she wouldn't submit. Each step forward felt like pushing through molasses. The whispers screamed, clawing at her sanity, but she pressed on. Her children needed her. Hold on. I'm close. She shouted, urgency spilling from her lips. The faces in the shadows twisted in anger, reaching for her, but she didn't look back. She had to keep moving. Ahead, another flicker of light penetrated the darkness. It pulsed steadily, a heartbeat, growing larger as she approached. Heart pounding, she reached for it. Suddenly, a sharp gasp broke through the clamoring whispers, shoving her off balance. She stumbled, feeling hands grasp at her, dragging her back into the abyss. Panicked, she fought against the invisible tendrils tightening around her wrists. Mom. The voices of her children poured through from the light, clear and haunting, a lifeline to pull her back. No. With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa wrenched her arms free. The shadows howled at her defiance, darkness swirling in rage. Just as she reached for the light, the swirling mass of darkness shifted violently, swallowing the glimmer. Mom. The cries faded as the warmth was snuffed out, plunging her into oppressive blackness. Breathless, Lisa fell to her knees, despair crashing down around her. Had she lost them? All hope seemed to evaporate in that stifling dark. But then, just like that, she felt it's something not quite right. The shadows shivered, whispering anew, yet different this time. Find us before it's too late. With a chill running down her spine, she realized the truth. She was not the one searching, something else was hunting them, something darker and more sinister. As the air thickened with dread, a new revelation began to unfurl, one more sinister than the last. Lisa could only wonder, what awaited them if she failed. The darkness was patient, drawing nearer as time slipped away. The flickering light was gone, leaving only an unsettling void. Lisa steeled herself as she prepared for whatever was coming next. Would she find her children before the shadows consumed them, or would she be lost to the dark forever? Her breath came in frantic gasps as she grasped at whatever strength she could find. The whispers had changed now, they wrapped around her like a predator circling its prey. Every nerve in her body screamed danger. The shadows pressed closer, their icy presence invading her thoughts, filling her head with dread. She blinked, trying to clear her mind, pulling herself back to the reality that lingered just beyond the oppressive dark. Josh. Mia. She called again, desperation tasting bitter on her tongue. No answering cries. Only the ravenous darkness and its constant hunger. Together forever, the voice returned, more seductive than before. It promised safety, interminable comfort in the depths, if only she would surrender. But Lisa shook her head, defiance blooming in her chest. If her children were in danger, she couldn't afford to succumb. In a frenzy, she clawed at the darkness, searching, hoping to break through to find a hint of her children. Suddenly, she thought she saw something, a flicker, a glimmer of warmth in the inky void. Eyes wide, she surged toward it, heart pounding like a war drum. With every step, the shadows recoiled as if stung, their hissing intensifying, echoing like a swarm of angry insects. "Leave!" they shrieked, voices merging into a cacophony of agony. It felt like a physical slap against her skin, knocking the wind from her lungs. But Lisa pressed on. "I'm coming. I will find you," she shouted, and in that moment, her resolve crystallized into a bright, unwavering light within her soul. Then it happened. A piercing shriek erupted as a figure shot from the shadows, barely illuminated by the dim light flickering ahead. It looked like a person, but twisted, misshapen. Its limbs elongated in grotesque proportions, and its grin revealed rows of jagged, glistening teeth. The horror of its existence snatched the breath from her lungs. "Mom!" It wasn't her children, but the voice matched their pitch, another cruel taunt. It lunged, wrapping its hands around her throat, icy fingers squeezing tighter as despair surged through her veins. She gasped, clawing at the creature's hands, panic mixing with adrenaline. "Let me go. Where are my kids?" The thing's face twisted, eyes full of malice. "They are close, so close." With a guttural laugh, it leaned in, breath chilled and fetid. "You are too late, but you will join them. Forever." A surge of primal fear flooded Lisa. It ignited a fierceness she didn't know she had. Summoning every ounce of strength, she slammed her knee into the creature's stomach. It recoiled, letting go long enough for her to stumble back. Lisa turned and ran, pounding through the dark, heart racing. She didn't look back. Each echoing footfall was a reminder that the past had no bearing on where she was going. Head down, she focused on the flickering glow ahead, praying it wasn't another illusion. But the whispers returned, creeping back into her mind. "You can't escape, you belong to us, no." She screamed, finding her voice, her fire. "I will find my children." Determination fueled her steps as she launched into the light, praying it was still within reach. As she neared the source, the ground trembled violently, opening beneath her like the jaws of a great beast. An inky maw yawned, threatening to swallow her whole. The shadows clutched at her legs like chains, heavy, cold, relentless. Was this the end? She couldn't let it be. Stretching out her hand, she dove forward, seeking whatever warmth the light offered. In that instant, a surge of energy shot through her fingertips. She felt it, a connection, a link, an echo of laughter that was so familiar, so close. "Josh! Mia!" She cried out again, as her hand pierced through the darkness. The light pulsed, brighter, pushing against the suffocating dark, casting the shadows back momentarily. But something in that brilliance flickered ominously, wild and chaotic. With a thunderous roar, the shadows fought to reclaim their hold, churning like a whirlpool ready to pull her down into the abyss. Just as she thought the darkness would drag her back, a scream echoed through the chaos, the unmistakable sound her heart had longed for. "Help us!" Lisa froze. The voice was unmistakably her children's. Had they been here all along, just beyond her reach? Time was running out. She had to find them. With one final push, she prepared to leap into the swirling chaos, heart racing with fear and hope. Would she enter the darkness, or would it claim her, too? One thing was certain: the hunt was only just getting started. The moment Lisa plunged into the chaos, her body felt weightless, as if she were swimming through syrupy darkness. The world shifted around her, the whispers swirling louder, darker, each breath like a plea for mercy. That warmth she'd reached for flickered, wavering like a candle in a storm, and she felt the siren call of despair pulling at her. "Mom! Please!" The voice sliced through the darkness, piercing her heart like a dagger. "Josh! Mia!" Then she was floating in an expanse of shadow, something cold wrapping around her, tightening like a serpent. Panic surged. What had she done? Had she just sealed their fates? That's when she saw them, a distant glow, flickering sporadically, illuminating the silhouettes of two figures trapped in twisted webs of shadow. They were children, their faces pale and their eyes wide, shimmering with hope and fear. "Mom!" They cried again, clinging to each other, shivering in the darkness. Lisa fought against the grip of the shadows clawing at her. "I'm coming!" she screamed, pushing against the unseen force weighing her down. But the shadows slithered closer, hissing in triumph. "You will lose them like you lost everything else." With renewed determination, she bowed her head, lowering her chin to her chest, digging deep for courage. She charged forward, every fiber of her being ignited with fierce love. Each footfall sent shockwaves through the dark, and she felt the whispers thin out, recoiling as she advanced. The air crackled electrifyingly as she approached, the children's laughter fading into terrified whimpers. An immense darkness loomed behind her, a monstrous shadow brewing with malevolence, ready to pounce. "You'll never take them." "Not now," Lisa shouted, her voice breaking through the cacophony. The light steadied before her, grew bolder, as if inspired by her defiance. There they were again, more distinct now, a boy with unruly hair, a girl with a flowered dress, shining like beacons. "Hold on." Lisa pushed herself forward, almost reaching them. "Just an inch further, Mom." "Where are you?" Mia's voice quivered, trembling like a leaf. It was their fear that pushed her on. With a fierce roar, Lisa surged, the light brightening into a blinding flare that threatened to engulf them all. "Stop!" The shadow shrieked, thrashing furiously, struggling against the radiant light. "Stay close!" Lisa screamed, her voice carrying hope as she could see their faces gleaming again. "I'm almost there." The whispers turned to savage screams, claws raking at her skin as cold as ice. She felt them tearing at her, dragging her back with every ounce of strength. They were desperate to keep her away, desperate to claim what was theirs. But Lisa fought with desperation, every breath a battle, pressing onward through the fierce surge of darkness and despair clawing at her mind. "Mom!" They were so close now, she could almost touch them. But doubt began to seep in. What if this was a trap? What if surrendering to the light was the worst mistake she could make? With everything she had, she crossed into the light, arms spread wide, reaching for their warmth. Shadows shrieked behind her, the chilling howls reverberating like 1,000 banshees wailing in anger. And then nothing. Silence swallowed the world as she collided into the warmth, enveloping her like a protective cocoon. But all hope shattered when she opened her eyes. Lisa stood in a vast void, the light around her fading, dimming rapidly. She turned, terrified, searching for the children, but deep darkness loomed behind. "Mom!" The soft, trembling voices echoed from all directions, familiar yet haunting. "Help us!" Her heart sank as dread poured over her. They weren't here. They were still in the shadows, still at the mercy of the creature lurking in the dark. "Where are you?" Lisa cried out, but the shadows danced, flickering on the edge of her vision. Was she trapped now? Had she lost them after all? Despair twisted in her gut as she felt a familiar chill, creeping closer around her. A new whisper unfurled, close and menacing, curling around her thoughts like smoke. "You can't escape from here, Lisa. You're one of us now." The ground buckled beneath her feet, threatening to tear her apart, and in that moment, she realized she had awakened something. With an agonized scream, the darkness closed in on her again. The hunt wasn't just for her children anymore. It was for her very soul. What she didn't know was that the darkness had set a trap one she may never escape. The ground trembled beneath Lisa's feet, rippling like the surface of a disturbed pond. She felt as if she were standing on the edge of a precipice, the world around her hanging precariously, waiting to drop. Her heart pounded, echoing in her ears, drowning out the whispers that grew hungrier in the darkness. "Mom!" The voices seemed to swirl around her, taunting, pulling at her sanity. "Help us!" They were so close, yet so far. Panic clawed at her throat. She stumbled but caught herself, forcing her legs to move. She had to find them. Had to rescue them, even if it cost her everything. With every step forward, the darkness writhed, hissing like 1,000 snakes, creeping closer, testing her resolve. Then she felt it, a presence, shifting, pressing against her back. "You will never find them," it sneered, breath hot and vile, wrapping around her neck like a noose. "They belong to me. And so do you." Lisa turned sharply, but darkness encircled her, a suffocating wall of black and despair. She could see nothing. Just shadows dancing, mocking, whispering secrets she dared not understand. "What do you want from me?" she yelled into the void, desperation seeped into her voice. The shadows momentarily stilled, then erupted into laughter, a cacophony of cruel voices. "The same thing you want, Lisa," the whisper slid through the dark. "To save your children. But you will pay the price. Oh yes, you will pay." With resolve ignited, she took a deep breath, pulling strength from the depths of her heart. This was not the end. If they were taken by the darkness, she would join them. She pushed out, fists clenched, her spirit lighting up like a beacon. "You can't have them. You can't take me either." The laughter halted abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. A stifling void followed, so thick she could taste it. Then, unexpectedly, a crack appeared. A faint glimmer of light sat on the horizon, pulsating gently, as if it beckoned her. "Follow the light," that dark voice echoing warned, yet the flickering warmth within was too tantalizing to resist. She surged toward it, the shadows roaring in outrage, claws reaching out desperately to snag her back. With a burst of adrenaline, she sprinted. The glow flared brilliantly, illuminating her path and casting the shadows aside like ash caught in the wind. Amidst the brilliance, she saw them, Josh and Mia, entangled not just in the shadows, but in a thick, sticky web of despair. Their faces reflected a mix of relief and fear as they swung back and forth in the dark tendrils. "Mom! Help!" they cried, their little hands reaching toward her, trembling. "I'm right here. Hold on," Lisa yelled, launching herself toward them. But the moment she touched the web, agony shot through her palms, a furious shock that knocked her back. "No!" she screamed, scrambling to her feet. The shadow surged, encapsulating the children, smothering their cries. "Leave them be!" Lisa shouted, desperate fury surging within. The shadows laughed again, a dark symphony echoing around her. "You think you can fight us? You are nothing." Panic gripped her heart, but she forced herself to breathe. "You're wrong," she shouted, rallying her strength. "I am their mother." The ground rumbled in response, darkness swirling around her, but something inside her snapped. An ancient instinct surged as she flung her arms wide, launching herself into the fray. The light erupted from her, blinding in its intensity, crashing against the shadows with a deafening roar. Flashes of memories, laughter, love, warmth flooded through her, fueling the explosion of light. For a brief moment, the shadows shrank back, revealing Josh and Mia, their expressions wide with terror and wonder. But the darkness retaliated, frantically clawing back, a tempest of rage that threatened to swallow all light. "You cannot win," they screeched in unison, their voices interlacing like a nightmarish chant. And then, Lisa felt it, a sinister pull, the claws of darkness wrapping back around her feet, dragging her down. "No! I won't give in," she cried, panic twisting in her gut as she felt herself falling, spiraling into the abyss once more. The light flickered, just as darkness tightened its grip. "Mom! Help!" echoed once more. In that moment, one thought crystallized in her mind. What if she couldn't save them? What if they were lost forever? With a scream that shook the very fabric of the dark, she clawed against the pull, fighting against despair with every ounce of strength left in her bones. But the darkness merely tightened its hold, and Lisa could hear its sinister laughter wrapping around her thoughts like chains. "Too late, Lisa. You're trapped here with us." Suddenly, a memory flashed, a flash of color in a world of gray, and she realized there was a way out. She could still turn the tide, but it required a choice. Was she willing to risk everything for them, even if that meant facing the darkness alone? With her heart racing, she braced herself for what was to come, uncertain if she could endure the horror lurking in that abyss. The darkness swirled wildly around her, and then it lifted slightly, just enough to reveal a hidden truth. "Join us, Lisa," the shadows crooned softly. She hesitated, teetering on the brink of despair. There was something sinister in that promise, something she couldn't quite fathom. But one thing was certain: she had no idea what she would face next. What would be left of her, and of them, in the twisted game of the shadows? The chilling whispers fluttered in the air, and Lisa knew she had to decide, but the choice may hold consequences she couldn't foresee. And as the darkness loomed, ready to engulf her once and for all, she was left with one haunting question: would she become part of the darkness or break free to save her children? Lisa felt the swirling chaos around her, darkness soaking into her very being. Every instinct told her to pull away, but something inside ached. Her children were just beyond her grasp, and she would not abandon them. The shadows hissed, their whispers forming a web of doubt around her mind. It clawed at her thoughts, trying to distort her resolve. "Mom! Help!" The voices cried again, echoing like a fragile melody threaded with desperation. Hope surged, fierce and bright. "Hold on. I'm coming!" She screamed into the void, igniting that furnace of determination within her. With each heartbeat, fueled by pure love, she surged forward against the grip of darkness wrapping around her legs. The flickering light fought back the shadows, illuminating the swirling despair, and she could see them, her children caught in the inky tendrils, faces wide with terror and longing. Josh. Mia. Their names tore from her with desperate energy as she pushed against the weight of the shadows. She could see their faces clearly now, illuminated by the glow, gleaming with hope yet filled with sorrow. "Mom, please." They strained against the darkness, hands outstretched, their tiny fingers clawing at the web holding them captive. Each innocent plea broke her heart, but it also ignited a fire in her spirit, fierce and unyielding. "I will get you out," she shouted over the cacophony of darkness. Narrowing her focus, she approached them, undeterred by the furious energy of the shadows swirling around her. "Mom!" They cried again and again, a haunting chorus mixed with fear and love, each sound tethering her to the last remnants of courage left in her. She took a trembling step forward, brushing against the webs, but this time she wouldn't be cast aside. As darkness shrieked, attempting to pull her back, a vivid wave of memories surged: a moment of laughter, a cozy night with storybooks, the warmth of family hugs. They flooded her senses, a potent reminder of what truly mattered. Love. Connection. Resilience. Let them go. The command rumbled within her, powerful and righteous, as she clutched her heart and leaned into the overwhelming force of hope. The light erupted from her core, a fierce burst that pushed out and splintered the darkness, sending shockwaves through the air. The shadows recoiled, taken aback, hissing in fury as the light expanded, illuminating the depths of despair in every corner. Ghosts of anguish faded, their hollow eyes reflecting bewildered fear. "Mom! Help!" Their cries sounded urgent, panicked, yet emboldened by the brightness pushing back the darkness. Lisa surged toward them, arms outstretched, ready to grasp their warm hands tightly. "No!" The shadows called in a deafening screech, grasping at the light, twisting desperately, but the radiance was too strong. It pushed against the walls of the abyss, illuminating her path, revealing every flicker of hope. "Hold on to me," she cried, tears spilling down her cheeks, each drop a prayer, each heartbeat a promise. They reached for her, fingers tangling in the light. "Mom!" They shouted in unison as shadows writhed, threatening to envelop them once more. With a thrust of raw strength, she dove forward, lunging for her children. The world around them erupted into brilliance, even the darkness dimmed, as if frightened, boiling away under the weight of love. "Got you!" Lisa inhaled as she grasped their tiny hands, warm, alive. Relief flooded her, washing the tension from her body. But the shadows roared, closing in, a monstrous force. They would not be defeated so easily. With ferocity fueled by love, Lisa pulled them close. "Hold tight." The battle was far from over. She could feel the force of darkness straining against her, furious and relentless. Together. Josh shouted, squeezing Mia's hand. We won't let it take us. Lisa nodded, bracing herself. Let us push together. They focused, channeling every ounce of strength, every memory of joy and love into that brilliant light surrounding them. The shadows coiled closer, but fueled by their bond, the light surged forward, amplifying, bursting through. Stay back. Lisa screamed, pushing against the shadow's grasp with newly found power. And as they struggled, she felt a shift. The edges of darkness screamed, twisting away, defeated by their unity. With one final leap of faith, Lisa pulled her children close. The light flared, a sunburst that shattered the shadows into sparkling fragments, scattering them like ashes in the air. The echoes of darkness screamed and fell silent, leaving nothing but the warm glow of safety and the familiar sounds of home surrounding them. A heartbeat later, the trio stood in their living room, mundane and comforting, the sunlight streaming through the windows, warming their faces like a soft embrace. Lisa dropped to her knees, pulling her children tightly against her chest, trembling in relief. Mom! Mia cried, snuggling into her embrace, warmth thawing every lingering chill of the night. I was scared. Me too. Josh echoed, relief flooding his voice. How did we get here? Mia whispered. We fought the darkness together, Lisa said softly, looking at them with fierce love shining in her eyes. As long as we have each other, we can face anything. With the shadows vanquished, the air felt different now, lighter, almost alive. Lisa knew in her heart they had reclaimed their home and their lives. The echoes of terror faded as laughter filled the space again, carrying their love high into the air. And as the sun set, casting shadows across the room's safe and fleeting, Lisa vowed never to let darkness touch them again. As they settled down for the night, exhausted yet free, the remaining stirrings of the evening faded, giving way to the warmth of hard-won peace. But far beyond their cozy home, shadows still lingered, whispered secrets waiting for another chance, and Lisa knew this was a battle she would always stay vigilant against. But at least now, she would never fight alone. This is how the story closed, but the memories remained, the relentless echoes of love in the heart of the night that promised, no matter what darkness fell, the light would always return. Now that you've been here for Lisa's journey, you need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next chilling exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this mind-bending ending. And don't wait even one more second. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who can't miss this explosive conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.